All right, welcome back to another episode of the Writers Guild podcast. It's me, Belton, and Kasen. And today's episode is about dialogue. Ain't that right, Kasen?
It is. And do we even know what count we're on? Is this episode 8?
This might be 9 or 10, maybe, or 8.
Coming up on double digits, y'all.
I want to say it's like 9. It's
I
a
think
little
it's
hard to
getting
keep
up there.
track of because like we've been stacking the episodes.
That's right. That's what we do.
And then just schedule. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Yeah, man. Dialogue. Do you want to like start it off, or do you want me to start it off? How we rolling, man?
Absolutely. What's funny is like, so I picked out some examples of like good and bad dialogue.
Oh, sick, dude! You got prepped.
I did. What was funny though is my phone died right before we started recording this, but
oh, no way.
It just came back on, so we're good. Everything like fire has been fought.
Sick.
So yeah, I just kind of wanted to open up. I thought maybe it'd be fun if I read read a couple lines and we can discuss. So just some examples first off of what I think of as good dialogue. One of them's a little more recent, and I'll get to that one in a second. But I'll let you guess what this is from. Also, this is part of my thoughts around dialogue. But I guess we'll get to that. But anyway, all right. We're the middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no great war, no great depression. Our great war is a spiritual war. Our great depression is our lives. We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't. And we're slowly learning that fact, and we're very, very pissed off.
Oh, dude. Okay, that sounds like a really epic speech, right?
Uh-huh.
Is this something I know about?
I think so.
Is it a movie, a show, a book?
So it's a movie. And
it's a movie.
I'll give you the actor if you want.
Please.
Brad Pitt.
Is this Fight Club?
It is. Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, I got it right.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
can we make a little score? Speech. Go like 1 point for Belton.
Dude, okay. Oh man, I was like so anxious. I was like, I can't let Kasen down. Oh,
no,
dude,
you nailed it.
That's okay. I'll just say that's a really solid speech, right? So it sounds nice and slick. It's very stylistic. It gets to the point. It's nice and dramatic. I think it checks all the boxes it needs to, given what it is. It's him giving a speech, right?
Right.
I think it's great. What do you think?
I agree with you. And as I was beginning to read, I was like, oh, you know what's important in dialogue? Delivery. And
yes,
it's marrying the character to the words they're saying, whether it's a book or a movie in this case.
Yeah.
It's very important. And so that's something to consider as we're breaking down what is good dialogue and what are the facets of it. But delivery is absolutely part of that. I'll read another real quick. I maybe won't read all these. I've got a lot.
Dude, I'm saying, you know what? I'm just going to go and say it. How about like the first chunk of the episode be you going through this, and then the next half will be me going through what I prepped. I love what you prepared. This is
sweet.
1,000,000% the right move. This was such a good idea.
Heck yeah. All right, let's go. I'm getting pumped, bro.
Dude. Yeah. Okay. So how about what we'll do is you read the line, and if there's any like guesswork you want me to go for, if you think I have a fighting chance or whatever, like we can do that. And then I'll give my take, and then you give me yours. And if we come across one where we disagree, all the better. That's like a fun situation to be in, right? Where we would start debating. I'm excited about this.
Amazing. And I will say,
you blew my mind.
Oh, great, brother. Hey, for this next one, if you haven't seen it, you are coming over tomorrow, and we're watching it.
Man.
All right, so that's the first hint. But even before I get to it, this one's a little bit more of an actual dialogue where there's back and forth between two different characters.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna have to change the names though. That
would be a dead giveaway. Yeah, just go for like really silly ones.
Okay, perfect.
Like Bob and Tim or something.
Bob is great. So, Bob, My father was an alcoholic. Mean, freaking drunk. He'd come home hammered, looking to wail on somebody. So I'd provoke him so he wouldn't go after my mother and little brother. Interesting nights were when he wore his rings. Freddie. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry, that's such a dark line, and then I'm like,
I know,
scrambling
right?
for a
stuff,
name.
and you're trying to go for like, yeah.
Freddie. Yeah, he used to just put a urn, a wrench, a stick, a belt on the table, and just say, "Choose." Bob.
Ooh.
Well, I got to go with the belt there, Vanna. Freddie. I used to go with the wrench. Bob. Why the wrench? Freddie. 'Cause frick him. That's why. Bob.
Dude.
Your foster father? Freddie. Yeah, so you know what is it like Will has it sorry. Bob has an attachment disorder? Is it all that stuff? Bob nods. Fear of abandonment? Is that why I broke up with Skylar? Freddie. I don't know you had. Bob. Well, yeah, I did. Freddie. You want to talk about it? Bob. No. Freddie. Hey, Bob. I don't know a lot, but you see this? All this crap? He puts the folder down on the table. It's not your fault. Bob. Yeah, I know that. Freddie. Look at me, son. It's not your fault. Bob. I know. Freddie. It's not your fault. Bob. I know. Freddie. No, you don't. It's not your fault. I know. It's not your fault. All right. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Don't freak with me. It's not your fault. Don't freak with me, all right? Don't freak with me, Sean. Not you. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. So, Bob starts sobbing. Sean holds the back of his head and whispers one last time. It's not your fault. Bob breaks down and Freddie breaks down. Oh my goodness. Bob breaks down and holds Freddie as he sobs. Anyway, that was extremely difficult to translate their names. I'm pretty sure I got mixed up a couple times in there.
It's okay, you did, but yeah, it's fine. Is that Good Will Hunting?
Yes, you nailed it.
Oh, dude, I did not know what you were talking about, what you were reading. And I watched it once because I heard about, it's a classic case, one of those movies that blew my mind. And I was like, this is amazing. And then I watched it, never again. I was slowly feeling like a sense of familiarity coming back, specifically Robin Williams insisting over and over again, it's not your fault.
Yep.
And Matt Damon being like, oh, I'm going to eat poop potatoes on Mars one day. Oh, I can't handle this.
Martian reference, y'all.
Dude, okay, you just reading that, and even like you're reading it and like struggling to not say character names as you last minute came up with some goofy substitutes. Even, dude, that dialogue sequence was coming through. Like you did a good job of reading it, right? I was getting goosebumps just then. You've chosen some great excerpts.
Thanks, brother.
I think that's amazing. I really love that movie. I remember hearing about the park bench scene and how impactful that was. And I just thought, wow, Robin Williams is just an incredibly hilarious man. And he's like an accomplished dramatic actor. And I just thought, sign me up. I want to see what this bench scene is all about. And sure enough, I saw it and it was beautiful. And
that's a good word for it. Yep.
That writing came through in that scene you were just quoting, right? I think it's great. What you got? I like it.
We are technically a writers guild, like a writer podcast, but I just want to love on movies for a minute here. The late 90s, early
scripts.
2000s, like from 95 to 2005, you had the golden age of cinema.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I mean, just think about it. Patriot, Braveheart, Good Will Hunting, Dead Poets Society. I mean, the list goes on and on. Even like Treasure Planet. It was like Disney's discovery phase of like Atlantis. And I mean, you had such a crazy variety and there was just boldness. Like Hollywood had balls at that time. It was awesome. And they knew what they were saying, which was pretty cool, which is essential for good dialogue and good stories.
Right. I mean, well, I've come to understand a lot of the studios over time have been bought out and are being led by people who are profit driven and not art driven. And Matt Damon commented on that, actually. Matt Damon said,
Matt Damon commented on that like concept.
On the phenomenon you're talking about how like there was a time when movies were consistently better. He said, it's not your fault. No, I'm kidding. He said, yeah. Thank you. He said that, before streaming, movies basically had two box offices. You had the box office, obviously, and then after that, you had the DVD release or VHS release, and that was like a whole other box office. And because of that, the returns were just bigger, and as a consequence, they could take more risks. So you got more special movies like Good Will Hunting that just wanted to tell a solid story, and that could fly, that could get greenlit, right? And these days, it's just riskier, which is why we're getting such typical films. And a lot of these studios have been bought out by, they've been bought out by bigwig investors that are just kind of like trying to squeeze them for all they're worth, and that's why we're getting such poor quality entertainment. But dude, right?
It's the age of the IP address, man. It's like, hey, they just want to pay for something that's already done well and then remake it or do spinoffs, and it's a little tough. But
hashtag retweet if you cry every time.
Yeah,
I'm being a goof.
I think in that scene though, kind of like in the first one, the delivery is really, really important. But it's also not. And I think Noah chatted about this some. It's not necessarily that he's explicitly saying it's not your fault for struggling in this life with your dad issues or anything like that, or it's not your fault for not living up to your potential and going out west or things along those lines. He keeps it kind of vague and lets Matt Damon fill in the blanks, and it's kind of a scenario, I think, where if you're writing a book and you're trying to have an impactful scene, don't feel like you need to spell out exactly what the intent of the dialogue is for the reader. A lot of times you'll have moderately intelligent people who can insinuate by like, hey, it's not your fault. We know exactly what that means without necessarily knowing exactly what that means. So be bold in that sense too.
Inference is a really important. Yeah. So keeping things on brand, right? Inference is really, really important. It kind of goes back to that show, don't tell. When you show, like, let's say you show two variables at play in a story. I'm not necessarily talking about dialogue specifically. I'm just kind of generalizing here. But like when you show two variables and you show how this operates and you show how that operates, and in showing their mechanics, there is a connection to be inferred. That's a powerful thing for a reader. Like when I was reading the Farseer trilogy, which again, amazing. There was a lot of instances of that where I just saw this is the way the magic works, and then I saw somebody doing something over here, and I was able to infer they're probably using this, which means they could do that. Ooh, that's sinister. And that and giving your reader or your viewer the opportunity to infer with dialogue, I would argue is probably the most important part of the show don't tell formula, because it deals with characters. And you can have dragons, you can have robots, you can have interplanetary drama. Like, I don't mean to throw the prequel Star Wars films under the bus all the time, but like the writing is don't try it. The writing is weak, right? And it's because it's not really grounded in the characters so much as it is the plot. And as such, there's a bit of a disconnect. Not hating on it. I love it. I'm a fanboy for it, right? I love the clones and the battle droids and all. Yeah, buddy. All that being said, characters are what we connect with first and foremost. So whatever your story is about, you need relatable characters. No matter how crazy and foreign your story is, I would argue the more crazy and foreign your story is, the more important it is that you have grounded, believable, relatable characters. Because as humans, we are first and foremost going to relate to fellow humans. So it is advantageous as a writer to as accurately replicate people as possible, and that is going to be conveyed first and foremost through dialogue. So yeah, I'd say the inference through dialogue is at its most important.
And I think I would agree with you for sure on that point.
Thank you.
One note I'd say too for writers who I know I was banging my head against the wall just with this new book, trying to write deep and compelling characters. For some people, it may not necessarily be your thing, and that's okay. You can do really, really well as an author or writer or a communicator by telling that plot-driven narrative. So an example of that would be Philip C. Quaintrell with like the Ranger, or sorry, not the Ranger. What's it called? I'm blanking on the name, but Philip C. Quaintrell, like his books are really, I mean, there's some strong characters in them, but where you can just tell like he knows the voice of this character so well. But they're really plot driven. I would say romantasy as a genre too. Tons of tropes. That's kind of part of it. Is you know what you're getting. There might be some
it's a defined genre.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, it's not to say that, you know, if you're really struggling and feeling like you're not saying enough with a character or conveying enough, maybe you don't have to. Like, relax, you know, ease off the gas brakes. But I would agree with you. And actually, that might play into allowing the reader their inferences. So that might actually think of it that way too. Like, less is more.
Dude, right? Oh, that's nailing it. I need to... Yes, no, I really appreciate you saying that.
Belton, this is all recorded, so we'll have notes.
Oh, wait, no. Yeah! Okay, what's the next bit of dialogue you got, dude?
All right.
You have been picking banger after banger. I'm waiting for the one where I am just totally clueless on what it is.
All right. Let me see. Oh, okay. Where I googled where Padme is from. Do you know the answer to that?
Coruscant.
Naboo. Phantom Menace.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I know that.
I thought Alderaan, and then I was like, no, that's wrong. So, yeah, Naboo.
El Dorado? No, yeah.
No.
Naboo. I should know that.
Oh, dude, I didn't. I was like, whoops. Because it's in the Phantom Menace, and I still didn't connect that.
Yeah,
anyway.
But then they just like completely forget about Naboo for the next two movies, which
I know.
And it's really only the third one that you ever watch. You know, you don't watch the first two.
And Alderaan, that's what they blow up in The Empire Strikes Back, right?
Alderaan. Yeah,
it is Alderaan. That's right? Not Naboo.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so far I've got a really great track record of guessing the right planets in the Star Wars universe, so I feel confident about this one.
We'll Google it.
Yep.
Wait, I had... No. Sorry, I'm scrolling through.
No worries. The Writers Guild podcast is brought to you in part by Audio Technica. That's literally true, though, because their technology is helping us facilitate the recording of this episode.
Yeah, we're real professionals.
We're helping to facilitate.
Okay. Let's do... Okay. So, you've come back to die with your city. No, I've come back to stop you.
That's from The Dark Knight Rises.
Correct. And do you think I
knew that in my bones.
As good or bad dialogue?
Say it again.
So, you've come back to die with your city. No, I've come back to stop you.
It's a little cheesy. It's fun. It's concise. It fits the genre. You know, you have a higher expectation of the quality of dialogue given just the caliber of quality you got in the first two movies. And everyone knows the third one's a little off kilter from the first, just because like the first one is just so good. Mm-hmm. And the second one is cinematically legendary for reasons I need not state. It's already been said 1,000 times. It's a wonderful. So but the second one also has a goofy line, right? I might be misquoting, but there's a part where it's the end of the movie where Batman confronts the Joker for one last time, and the Joker has concocted this situation where he's like manipulating these two barges of people to choose who's going to die, and it's just his sick game where he's just proving like, look, everyone's as bad as me. And I forget what he says, but like the Joker says something like, aren't you just upset that everyone's just bad like me? Something, I don't remember what he says, but Batman's like, no, the city's ready to believe in good. Or so I don't remember exactly what it is, but he says something about the city being ready to believe in good, and it's just it's a little goofy. And I think some of that can happen when, like, in real life, conversations back and forth are rarely boiled down to like two exchanges that like perfectly summarize the antithesis or the thesis that either people have that are opposed to each other. It's not like Churchill was in a fist fight with Hitler and Hitler was like, I'm bad. And then Churchill's like, no, witty comeback. And then Hitler's like, well, I set myself up there. That doesn't happen. So it feels a little goofy in that movie. I'm giving a long-winded answer. I think it's a little cheesy.
No,
but
I agree with you.
It's got the semblance of wit, like Bane says his thing and then Batman recontextualizes it for his own intent. It's just a little too succinct, it feels a little too staged, and it needed to be, because movies have a short run time. They need to get to the point.
And I would agree with you completely. I had that in my bad category list just because, in my opinion, a lot of the superhero movies fall prey, and it was easy. It was just like, you can Google cheesy superhero lines, and there's so many. Like, another one that I looked at was this is a really popular line, actually. But it was, it was just called The Avengers, right? The first Avengers. And
oh yeah, 2012 with The Avengers.
Right. And like Loki says something like, I have an army, or I'm a god, or something along those lines.
We have the Hulk.
Yeah. Tony Stark says, we have a Hulk. Everyone loved that line. I think it's the most overrated line of all. Yeah, sure. It's fun. It's great.
It's fun. It's fine. Yeah.
It's fine. I just think lines like that, you can't overdo it. And they started to really overdo it. Like Marvel would Marvel, especially at the end there. It was just all these little quips and one-liners. And sometimes just let the levity of the scene have its moment. Now it's a fun superhero movie, so I'm not hating on it all that much.
It's pretty goofy though. It's already showing its age.
True. I mean, and there's a lot of those. Like Marvel is not short on kind of the goofier superhero movies.
Oh, dude, you're so right. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is like we expect more of the Dark Knight trilogy. So when it had lines like that, it's like, hey, you got some really compelling drama here. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, you can do better. And it's not a problem. It's just it kind of stands out a little bit when it happens. Like, we kind of groan and roll our eyes with Marvel, but like you weren't expecting more.
No, that is a fair point.
And it is a bummer because like that line in the 2012 Avengers, I remember walking away from the theater, in my teens at the time and thinking that was a lot goofier than I expected. Like that was the kind of consensus that me and my friends had was a lot more lighthearted than we expected. So you could totally take that line and say that that's kind of representative of like the foreshadowing of what was to come, right?
Ooh.
Of too many.
Yeah.
Like that line, people love that line and Marvel's like, oh, you love it? Here's more. And it just,
right.
It easily got to be too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, you have like a little Snickers bar. That's fun. Yeah. But then like you start eating a lot of Snickers bars.
You get a stomach ache, diabetes, bad stuff. Yeah, man. I think the wit in the first Avengers movie was a really great crutch for them working around the difficulty in writing a fairly, novel film in which you have this big star cast that have all come from their own independent franchises merging into one. I think that was kind of an intimidating thing to take on initially. And I think the levity kind of helped carry the weight of the story because the story itself was lacking. But the thing is, we went on to get better MCU movies that had more emotional weight. Like I think the best MCU movies, Civil War, because it has very personal stakes. It's got quips, but at the end, it's very raw, it's very personal, and nobody breaks the tension with a goofy line. It just ends with some very convincing character drama that I found very compelling. Like when Iron Man's laying there, his suit's been battered, and Captain America's walking away from him. Iron Man's like, that shield belonged to my father. It doesn't belong to you. And he's like yelling at him, and Cap doesn't say anything. He just drops the shield. I love that. I think that's so good.
Well,
he didn't even have a line in that case. Talk about less is more. He just dropped the shield. And talk about inference. That was all you needed to know. Cap was just like, fine, take it. But their friendship was gone.
It is a great movie, actually. That and Winter Soldier are like my top two, I think. But
oh heck yeah, Cap suddenly yeah.
And to be iconic, like iconic must be isolated. They just kept overdoing it, and that becomes a problem. Like the Terminator, "Hasta la vista, baby," or any of those epic one-liners from like movies. The '80s, right? Like all those action movies. I'm trying to think like "Yo, Adrian" or whatever. It's not like in every single movie, Rocky movie, he then ended his fights with that line, or that Arnold Schwarzenegger dropped the "Hasta la vista" everywhere else, or lines along that type of
along those
construct.
lines. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A little bit of salt, but
dude. When you write a line, you gotta just like write something that's your goal needs to be first and foremost to write something good. It shouldn't be to like create that crazy catchy one-liner. That's just not how it works. Like, "I'll be back" from the original Terminator movie.
I'll be back. Yeah.
You know what made that line special was the context, along with like the deadpan delivery and just the absolute understatement that it was. That was just a natural byproduct of the circumstance and the plot and the way in which the Terminator operated and expressed himself. I don't know if James Cameron knew it was going to be a big line. I mean, at the time, the attitude, like for Arnold Schwarzenegger, was like, "This is just some stupid slasher movie I'm in." I don't think anyone knew it was going to be as special as it was, let alone a specific line.
Hold up, I'm where's "Hasta la vista" from? That's not from the Terminator. I said that.
From the second Terminator movie.
Oh, it is from the Terminator. Okay, yeah, with the shotgun.
Yeah, so the son, what is his name? I remember his mother's name is Sarah Connor. John Connor? Oh. The leader of the Resistance. When he's a kid in the second movie, he's trying to teach the Terminator how to be a more convincing imitation of a human. And he's like, "You gotta like nobody says affirmative. Like, come on, you gotta use the slang the kids use these days." It's like, "No problemo," So then the Terminator would do something and go, "No problemo," and then he's like, "Hasta la vista," and that's why the Terminator started going like, "Hasta la vista, baby."
But
it was because John Connor was trying to like teach him the lingo of the times, and so you watch this robot with zero personality, which I'm sure some people would freak out at me saying zero personality, trying to imitate a human. And that was entertaining. But like the goal, I understand that the goal was to write good dialogue, not necessarily write, the next big catchy line, but like write something that was consistent with the character of the robot, consistent with John Connor and that world. And the result is that you get this robot saying this slang, and that's fun and funny, and it caught on, and it became a part of culture, right?
It really did.
Which is great stuff.
I mean, one of the most recognizable lines of all time.
Oh, dude, right?
I've got.
What's the next line you got though?
One more. I should have had more examples of bad. Well, I did have more examples of bad. But I got one more, and I think this one's really good. More? All right. It's proximity bias a little bit, or so this is something I heard recently, but I'm not gonna lie. I heard this line, and I immediately went and actually I'm not gonna tell you this, but all right, here we go. Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I've made my mind a sunless place. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago, from which there is only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight, they've set me on a path from which there is no escape. I yearned to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I looked down, there was no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. And the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything!
That's from Andor Season 1.
Yes, sir!
That was an easy guess because I watched your episode on your YouTube channel. So it was fresh in my mind. I watched the show. Okay, dude, that's where something I can. I mean, the line itself is okay, right? So he's giving a speech. So can I mean, it's perfectly dramatic. What's up?
Well, I'll expound on it. So that line is the reason I started watching Andor. I got a reel, and I heard. So it was a combination. Yes, the words are excellent. Like the way he flows through like when you really break down what he's saying, it's super powerful. But the actor's delivery of it, again, it's kind of back to the delivery, the tone, and these are all things you can capture in your book as well. It's not just isolated to movies. That all mattered so much. I think to name drop an author, Robert Jordan was excellent at describing people's faces and emotions, and sometimes you can overdo that.
Makes me want to read his stuff.
He's really great at it. He'll find ways of describing things that like just never really think of. But sometimes you can get too far into it and you're over describing the circumstances or scenario in which place like the dialogue or the actions happen. But it can also pull you in if done well and really just immerse you in whatever the scene is. And so, it's totally possible as a writer to be able to still pull off the delivery aspect of the dialogue. But anyway, those are just kind of, I just want to mention that line itself is the reason I started watching Andor in the first place.
Dude, okay, so that makes sense why it sounds like you were able to like hop on the show starting off of like goodwill, right? Because you were very intentionally building up to that moment. When you got there was like that satisfaction in seeing how it all clicked, knowing that you already found that moment special. And I feel like that kind of like enhanced it for you. Dude, unpopular opinion. I did not like Andor season 1.
Oh, so you've seen it?
I've seen it.
Let me guess, too slow.
I'm staying. It's not a pacing issue. I'm going to stay on brand though with dialogue. So I thought Brandon Sanderson talked about the mental load that a reader or a viewer will take on when consuming world building information for like a new story, right? And there is a push and pull, I would say, between how sometimes a car is just a car, right? You don't need to rename a car. But on the other hand, some things you would want to rebrand in order to really reinforce, hey, this is a world apart from our own. And if you use too many terms from our world, it will make this new one feel too familiar, and that could be off, right? And you need to have a dividing line. Like, again, sometimes a car is just a car, but I'll use an example. There is a sword that's like a katana, and for all intents and purposes is a katana in my story. But I'm not going to use the term katana because that is definitively Japanese. It's like what the Japanese are in this world. Like, that's just... But a pistol is still a pistol.
I've used katana, and a sword is in my books.
Oh yeah, well that's my judgment call, right? Fair. That's not, it's up to your personal discretion. My argument I'm making is that like I saw that as something that I needed to rebrand, so I came up with a more generalized term that specified it as being that kind of curved sword, right? Mm-hmm. But sometimes a car is just a car, and there's the argument that Brandon Sanderson made about like you don't want to overwhelm your readers with too many unfamiliar terms, because it can be hard to keep up with all that. Like if you introduce too many new characters all at once, your reader's going to be sitting there scratching their head going, who are these people? What? And then by the time they circle back to a character they've already read, they will have been introduced to so many new names that this name did not manage to stick, and then they're just continue to be confused, and it can be frustrating. There's a certain style of world building that's very popular in writing these days that we're seeing in a lot of current shows. And there's a deep fixation on like world building, right? On like fleshing out a unique world. And a part of that again is just like Starbucks makes themselves stand out through branding by not saying small, medium, large, but by saying, tall, grande, venti. That's their way of standing out, so that when you think of their sizes for their drinks, you're only thinking of Starbucks. You're not thinking about others. It makes you think about them. It makes them unique. You do the same thing in world building. But again, sometimes a car is just a car. In Andor, there's a lot of specialized terms that are thrown at you early on. I found it overwhelming. And there's a part where Andor's what is his relative? I don't remember the details. You could probably tell me. But his relative he's staying with. I don't remember the relations they have, but she comes storming into their home, and she's yelling at him like, "Did you?" It was some sort of interaction he had with some sort of thing that could incriminate him in a way that would put him on the Empire's radar in a bad way. And she basically said, "Did you do the blah 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 with the blah blah blah?" Right. So it's blank term, blank other term. And there was so many terms thrown around, and I had so little time to absorb them, that in that moment when she was yelling about them, I was not hearing implications, rising tension, stakes, oh no, uncertainty, what's going to happen next. I was just sitting there scratching my head going, what the heck are you guys talking about? It made the dialogue unengaging for me, because there was, you got to be, and Brandon Sanderson, I think, is very good at this. He might over-explain, but he can be very, very good at introducing a concept. Explaining it, and then going on to the next one and building up from there. He's very systematic in his approach to this, and Andor did not have that same kind of focus. Now, a show's not a book. It has to lean on show don't tell almost exclusively, unless you're going to do something like, oh, this character knows all about this stuff and our character over here doesn't know anything and they need it explained to them. There might be something like that you could use as a justification, like Harry Potter does that effortlessly, right? Like Harry Potter is new to the school, so invariably people are explaining things to him as he goes along, and you, by extension, get to have a know-how as well. That's an easy way to do it. But with Andor, there's concepts introduced that I just did not think were sufficiently explained prior to moving on to new concepts, and as a consequence, I found that I was mentally burdened by the requirement of keeping track of all these specialized terms. Oftentimes, I thought they were things that could have just been given names more similar to our world, just for simplicity's sake. I didn't think some of these unique terms were necessary. And again, it just kind of dragged down a lot of the dialogue. Like, I just did not know what was what and how it connected. And I found it to be a lot of fluff that got in the way of the core elements of storytelling, which is, character, drama, what is going on with these people. What's the bare bones of this? I found it distracting. So there's my
interesting. Rant. I feel like Andor could be its own episode. I had some qualms with it. Overall, loved it. Season 1 was good. I think season 2 was great. They just ramped up. It was awesome. Yeah. But maybe we do that on another episode. What all did you have regarding dialogue? Because I know we're almost at time.
Okay, so I just looked up articles about like how to write dialogue good. That's not exactly how I Googled it, but I wrote down so many notes that I only tabulated from this one article I found, because
wow,
I could have produced so much content. And
send me that article.
Oh, dude, I forget the name of the individual. I can put it in the description for the episode. But I wrote down the 5 rules of dialogue. Now, this is like 5 rules that this person put together. They're not like the definitive writing rules that like everyone agrees with. Also, it's creative writing. Like, come on. Right. At the end of the day, there are no rules. Just do what you do good. And it's really basic stuff. Like, the first one is just like, don't use dialogue tags every time someone speaks.
Yep.
Like, specifically, like, such and so said. Like, if you go back and forth one line after the other of characters talking, and each says such and so said, such and so said, such and so said, it can get repetitive. And I would argue sometimes you should vary it up. Like, sometimes have the dialogue tag precede the dialogue and vice versa. And they specify that. They say, hey, sometimes you want to have an action tag as opposed to a dialogue tag and things like that. But I did want to go on this quick tangent. I like to think it's amusing. You'll be the judge of that. But when they said don't, put a dialogue tag for every bit of dialogue, because when they said that, they said don't do that because it's redundant and repetitive. And I thought it was funny because I thought to myself, well, that sounds kind of redundant and repetitive.
Ooh.
But then I decided I should look up what these words mean, because this person's putting together a blog, for crying out loud, about writing. Obviously, she's into this stuff. I don't think she just threw those words around. My understanding is those words are like synonyms in my head in terms of how I use it. But generally our definitions no one's walking around with a dictionary in their book. We have generalized understanding of words. not their specific meanings. And usually words are way more specific than we actually know in practice.
So I've got a story on that note.
This is from the New Oxford American Dictionary. Repetitive means containing or characterized by repetition, especially when unnecessary or tiresome. Now, to that, I did put a note that they broke the golden rule. They used the word in its definition, and this is the New Oxford American Dictionary. That sounds pretty fancy, right? But like, whatever. Anyway, so containing or characterized by repetition, especially when unnecessary or tiresome. Okay, so unnecessary repeating. Redundant, however, does not mean that. It means not or no longer needed or useful, superfluous. So they don't actually mean the same thing.
Superfluous.
However,
question though.
On repetitive that note, has the meaning of redundant in it. What's up?
Well, on that note, since it is perception, since we aren't walking dictionaries, isn't it a little superfluous to use both anyway? Like, we're all gonna, if I see the word redundant, I'm thinking repetitive. If I see repetitive, I'm thinking redundant.
Well, that's the thing of these definitions. Like, repetitive kind of covers both. Redundant specifically is referring to something that is no longer necessary, whereas repetitive is tiresome because something is no longer necessary. So one is more specific than the other. Anyway, that was a tangent. I wanted to give some detail. I wanted to like start to be a little more detailed with the things I go about. But anyway, it's pretty basic rules. This is like a kind of blog that someone might read that's like just getting into it. So there's only one that I think was like better for like igniting a conversation between us, and that's the 4th rule out of the 5. Use dialogue to tell your story. And what they mean by that was, dialogue should share information, show, don't tell, back on that. And they went on to like list some questions that are good to like ask yourself when writing your dialogue. This person said they specifically asked themselves this when they're editing someone's work. Does each character's speech and style match their background and personality? So like that's something you need to be cognizant of, right? What you got?
Well, and on that note, actually, this is something I forgot to bring up. But for me, a litmus test of dialogue, this isn't my concept. It's something that I heard and I think is really powerful.
Yeah.
Is, do you know who's speaking regardless of whether or not you have tags? Like every line from Belton should be if we're in a story, and you read a sentence or delivery from one character, is it clear who said that line just based on how you've already fleshed out the characters themselves? So that's always been a good litmus test for me as I'm thinking through characters and what they might actually say. Because you can err on the side of trying to use the characters and their dialogue as a tool and like over explaining for sure. But the sweet spot is where you're able to, like you're saying, use dialogue to drive the plot forward, not bludgeon it necessarily, but like guide it, just have things that aren't redundant, right?
Or repetitive.
Or
which is redundant, especially after being said after. Anyway, one of the other ones is like, does the dialogue advance the character or plot? Would cutting it affect nothing?
Ooh, I like
and
that.
Dude, this had me like thinking. This had me like thinking about like stuff I've written, right? Because like as I've been writing, a lot of what I've been doing is like laying down the groundwork for editing to ultimately write the actual chapters I'll be satisfied with for the current act I'm on. And oh gosh, I had me thinking like, does it? So my understanding is like, okay, does it advance the plot, right? So like that's an obviously important one. And the other one would be, does it advance character? Like, are you learning more about this character? I would even argue, and feel free to push back on this, but like given a book doesn't have the same time constraints of a movie or a show, obviously, like that's a different story if you're writing for that. But if you got a book, pacing, you get a lot more leeway. So I'd even argue, like, it's just, you could even argue, like, are you spending time with the character, like, is this an opportunity for the reader to, like, bond with the character, right? Because, like, I typically I'll have, like, one of 2 types of chapters I write fundamentally. One that advances the plot where something critical happens, and one, which is more often the case, one in which like maybe some progress will be made, but the primary focus is just let's learn about these characters. Let's spend time with them, right? Because I think that's really necessary that you do that so that you know about these characters, so you care when something bad does happen to them, which is a lot of what Stephen King does, right? And that's naturally
put the
primarily
care
achieved
in
through
character.
dialogue. Yeah. And then when it comes to like, is the final one is any dialogue an info dump too much at once? And sure enough, I'm reading the fourth Robin Hobb book, the one that comes after the Farseer trilogy. It's called The Magic Ship. And sure enough, there's a chapter where you meet a character and the dialogue's very engaging. You're getting a sense of their personality and their world and their culture, and that's all very cleverly expressed. But it gets to a critical point where you learn a bit, where there's a bit of news for this one character that involves a life change. So like something significant happens plot-wise in the chapter in which you meet him, and that prompts him then talk to the other character in the scene about his personal life. And it's a lot. And the conversation was a little more even keel of an exchange prior to, and then this guy like drops a massive paragraph talking about very personal things. And it stands to reason the person he's talking to is someone he would trust. So it stands to reason he would share all that. But it felt a little inconsistent with his character. Like he wasn't that chatty before, and now he's like giving a whole dissertation that, as the reader, I know this was for my benefit. But in terms of, depicting a believable scene, it did feel kind of like info dump heavy, right? It didn't feel too natural, which I think she's a great writer, but
for sure.
Yeah, man. So those are some of the things I pulled from that article. I forget the name of the author,
cutting
but
like all the fluff, Yeah, I like cutting all the fluff.
Yes.
It's a good practice for us all as writers to look at something and be like, hey, is this necessary for the story? I think that's a great framework to use when you're going through dialogue. So, love that, man. You'll have to send me that article.
Yeah. You will do. I think it's got some good nuggets. It's fairly basic stuff. There was not enough time in the episode to like take notes of every article I came across, so I just did the one. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's time for the episode. Dialogue, man. What could the next one be? Could it? We'll find out.
Andor.
Alrighty, everyone. That's time. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Bye, Noah. Bye, Tyler.